Welcome to the 25th hour. I'm Kaz, normally from the right way, but I'm here today. We're going to have a little conversation with a fellow woodworker. So that's how I got in this chair here. With me today, we have Matt Thompson from Thompson Woodworking. Welcome to the show, Matt.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good times, man. Your past, how did you get into woodworking? Is it school? Is it family? Like, where's your story start, really?
Well, I mean, I had wood shop in high school, but I didn't care much for high school, nor wood shop. But at the age of, I think, 19, 20, I got a job with a cabinet maker, and out of his garage, he was building cabinets. They weren't nice cabinets. They were laminated cabinets, but I still learned. I worked there for a year, but I learned, the table saw, laminating, routers, but doing kitchens, I also learned some electrical and plumbing. My dad wasn't that handy. He didn't pass any of that down to me. But after that, I had other jobs. They weren't related to woodworking or anything like that. But we started a family young, so we had no money. So there's a lot of things that we wanted, but we couldn't afford. Because I remember there was the kids. We wanted some bunk beds for them, and so we went to the store. They had just closed, and I remember looking at that front window and seeing these bunk beds out of pine. I'm like, I can make those. And that's what I did. I went and got a bunch of 2x4s, and that thing was the heaviest bunk bed you'd ever seen. But over the years, I just, if there's something we needed, or I'd make little projects. I only had so much time because I was always working, my full-time job and some side gig doing something. But that also goes with all the mechanical stuff I do. I just learned through fixing cars and washing machines, and we didn't have YouTube when we were young. Best we had was a Chilton's manual for cars. If you had
those.
If you had the $20 to buy that, but that wasn't that descriptive.
Used to rent them or check them out at the library.
Oh, I didn't know that you could do that. Oh, that's a smart move. Or you knew a buddy that knew how to do this, but otherwise you had to take this thing apart, whatever it is, and understand how it works. So I was observant, and I learned and retained a lot of that stuff that I now put into the things I make. Mm-hmm. So, and even the stuff that I'm making now, I'm doing stuff that I'd never done before, but I get an idea and I'm determined to make it. And it's going to require something that I've never done before, but I'm going to figure out how to do that.
Right.
So,
you get any assistance on your home projects? Wife, son, any of that? Daughters? Anyone in the shop with you?
No. My mindset is it would take longer for me to instruct how, what I needed someone to do. Not necessarily even my son; he's very handy. But it's just I've even with the bar, I've learned to use clamps in a way that I won't need anybody's help. There's always another way to do it by yourself. Once in a while, if it's going to save me a lot of time, I'll have my son come over, give me a hand, or even Holly has helped me, with some things. But for the most part, I'm a one-man band.
I bet you find a lot of peace and solitude doing that.
Yeah, I do, and it's just rewarding.
I can relate.
And you make guitars, and I'm sure lots of other things, but to take raw materials and to have this idea and the skills and the know-how to take these raw materials and turn them into something cool, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Oh, yeah, it's like having another kid, right?
I mean, if I win that $1 billion tonight, I'm probably still going to be doing this stuff because nothing can take the place of it.
That's it. Yeah, I get a question a lot where people will say, well, what do you make? And my answer is always, I make sawdust. That's what I do. I make sawdust, And there's not a lot of things out there that is more calming. Like you have a stressed out day. It's like, just let me go in the shop and make some sawdust. Even if I'm not building anything good, just go cut some wood and put it together and
make a shelf or something.
Right, something simple. Just to go out and create. It's pretty amazing to do.
Things off your mind.
Yep. And let you focus.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely. And time goes by so fast, and you get yelled at a lot by the wife, like 5 more minutes.
You open the door, it's dark outside.
It's like, where did it go? I swear that was 5 minutes. Yeah, that's the downside is it spin the clock fast, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Yeah. What do you got on the future for you? Like, you got any crazy contraptions in your mind that you're thinking about?
Nothing big. I did have this idea that I think I'm going to work on and see if it's doable this weekend. It's ridiculous, but it's an automatic salt and pepper shaker. So you set your plate down on this disc, which is driven by a crank gear. The plate will spin, and then I'll have an arm where the salt and pepper are that are lifting, dropping, lift as
Okay.
the plate spins around.
Is it going to have like a cam on it or something that makes it go up and down?
Well, it's going to be one. I don't even know what the gear is called. It's a circle that spiral. It gets big, then the flat drops.
Oh, okay.
It'll go over that, and I don't know if there's going to be too much friction there or not. It's just I'll have to experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's the only action I can think of is just it dropping.
Yep.
So
Some sort
it's
of
got to
trial
go.
and
It's got to go pretty rapidly. So I got to, as the plate turns. So we'll see if it's.
So you have to do some gearing and
Yeah,
overdriving
yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
to
we'll
get it
see.
to spin fast.
And that's a slow process because I don't use AutoCAD or anything. All the gears that I've used in the things that you've seen are a piece of clip art where there were 3 proportionate gears, and I made vinyl decals, and so that they'd all fit. Cut them out, made templates, and flush cut from those templates additional gears, and that's all I've.
You use like plexiglass to make your templates?
No, I usually use like a 3/4 inch board, and then I'll just screw it in.
Okay.
And then for flush cut routing, I always use, and I don't see many guys doing it. It's a 1/4 inch spiral, upcut, flush. If you follow all that, you can Google it and rewind a little bit. But that I've used, the flush cut trim bits in the past, the big ones,
Yep.
and you got to take so much material off before you use that. This is like a CNC bit, and it just cuts through 3/4 inch board, cuts through plywood. And
Yeah.
if you got a template where you're making a lot of the same pieces, that's the bit you want to use.
Yeah, I use when I'm doing guitars, all my templates I make out of plexiglass. I cut them out with a bandsaw, get the shape that I want, and then attach them to my body blank, and then I use a 1/2 inch diameter trim bit, just 1/4 inch or 3/8 tall, to just get the basic of it out, and then go to the bigger bits to remove more material.
Yeah, but remember that spiral upcut, because the upcut draws the material into the table, and it's just one of my favorite tools. This little router bit.
Nice. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
I was going through your stuff. You make some absolutely amazing stuff. I was blown away. Like, someone showed me, a couple things before. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And then I took it upon myself to like really go through your stuff. And I'm like, Jesus, this is absolutely amazing. You got an incredible creative mind. I can relate, but I think you're like way over the top of anything that I could ever do.
Well, the goal is to be over the top.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, let me break it down for you. This is kind of the way that I like to say it. If Dr. Emmett Brown, Bob Vila, and the Goonies, and the inventor of Plinko had a baby in the middle of the Super Bowl, we would have Matt Thompson. Does that sound about right?
That's good. I like that.
All right. So a little bit of your backstory, wife and a couple of daughters, and what else do you want to tell us about yourself?
I have a wonderful wife, 31 years, and
Amazing. Good for you.
we have a 33-year-old daughter. You can
Okay.
don't do the math, but
Yeah.
30-year-old son and a 26-year-old daughter. And,
Okay.
They're all out of the house, thank God.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is probably why you have the money to build all these toys that you build.
It is.
So that'll lead me into my first question, which is actually down the list a little further. These things got to be pricey. Like, is this your job? Is this what you do? Do you have a regular job and then this is a hobby?
I have a regular full-time job that I have no intention to quit.
Where the hell do you get the time to build these monstrosities?
I work 40 hours, and that leaves quite a bit of time, weekends, and I work fast. I know exactly what I'm going to do, and so when I get home from work, I have a plan. I'm going to do this. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but
for sure.
But a lot of times it does, and it just comes together pretty quickly. Other things take. I don't know if you've seen the picnic table with the hot dog griller, and
I did.
So that took several months to build. So some things happen in a couple days, and some things take months to build.
Yeah. I can relate. I build a lot of weird stuff too. Nothing, like I said, to the level of what you do. It's absolutely amazing. But like, there's times where I'll go, like I'll have something in my head what I want to do, and I know there's a product out there that will make my build happen, and I'll just go to Home Depot and just wander for hours and hours and hours, and my wife gets so pissed off, like, what are you doing? I thought you were going to get 2 things. I'm like, I am, but I kind of need to invent them, you know?
Right, yeah.
So I get that it can take quite a while, and that's what like really intrigued me. I'm like, wow, you got like an actual job, and you still have the time to build this stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, Yeah, there's time. There's plenty of time. You know, I still sleep 7 hours a night, so.
Well, the kids being out of the house, that helps.
Yeah, and I work half hour away, Ann Arbor, so it leaves quite a bit of time.
I gotcha. So one of the first things that I saw, like I saw the bar, which is really cool, and then I saw, you know, some of the chairs, and then going through other stuff, and I see these bottle opening devices with the Plinko and stuff. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy had to like be a fan of the Goonies when he was a kid. He had to. And then sure enough, the next one I see, you guys are watching the Goonies on the projector. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those things that you've probably seen happen on the COVID lockdown, like 2020. You know, I had made quite a few things prior to that, but as soon as that happened, including the bar, we all had a lot of spare time, and you could at least go to the Home Depot and get lumber and things like that. So I just cranked out. There was nothing else to do, and I'm not much of a TV watcher. Right. You know, the bottle opener, the hockey bottle opener. I don't know if you've seen the Bird Resort that I made.
I love it with the swimming pool and stuff.
Bar. Yeah. It was just that's all I had to do. So it was just a very productive year for me. So.
Nice. A couple things I want to go through. The beer chair. Where'd you get the idea for the beer chair?
Well, that was my first viral video. That was back in 2017.
Okay.
My wife and I at the time were doing triathlons and marathons, and we were raising money for clean water projects in Africa. And so we were trying to raise money, and I was making a lot of small things, but I was also making the Michigan shaped Adirondack chair. I wasn't the only one making those. I got the idea from someone else, but it was only the Lower Peninsula. But I always wanted to incorporate Michigan's Upper Peninsula into it. So I don't know if you've ever seen Labatt Beer. They had this ad campaign. It was called Blueprint. Well, they had this Adirondack chair with a cooler, with like a lever, and then a slide for the beer to come down. And I saw that, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to copy it completely, but I think I could make something simpler, just like a single action thing, and then mount, because I wanted the Upper Peninsula to be in proportion, you know, to Michigan's Lower Peninsula.
Right.
And it just came together. It was the biggest project I'd ever tried, and I was just amazed at how well it worked. And you know, I posted that video, and I knew it was over the top and ridiculous, but I wanted to, everything I do, I try to make it look nice, professional. You know, people will question, is he serious about this? It looks like he spent a lot of time on it. But that chair was pretty practical. So, yeah, it worked great. I put Vernors in it. I call it the Michigan Beer Chair, but because it was a whole Michigan theme, I put Vernors in it. And that just completely blew up, millions and millions and millions of views. And then naturally, I moved on to the Michigan Wine Chair, because everybody's asking for a wine chair. I'm not sure if you've seen that video.
I did. It's in my notes here.
But that's how that came to be.
To the beer chair, how did you make the cooler? It looks like it's not an actual cooler, like you actually fabricated one. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I built it out of cedar. The prototype I made out of pine, but
the internal part.
Right. And if you go to Home Depot, that plastic liner for bathrooms is very inexpensive. It's like 1/16 of an inch. Yeah.
I use it all the time.
So I lined it, but I knew that and I had a. Did I have the standard? No. I took some corrugated sheet metal because I knew the ice cubes would get in the way of the roll of the can. So I formed that over the path of the cans so that you could, and then a cover so you could just dump ice in it. And obviously I caulked the seams of that. And I put a drain in there too. It was completely functional.
Yeah.
Although I never really used it.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's what you use, that 16th inch bathroom stuff for kitchens and, you know, industrial kitchens.
Exactly.
Or if you use like sheet PVC or something like that.
Nope, I've used that on a lot of projects.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's cheap too.
It's easy to work with.
It's awesome.
10 snips or whatever.
Yep, scissors. Good pair of shears. Let's cut it. Yep. The can slide for that, it's got like a concave groove so they stay on it. How did you do that?
Well, if I was going to make another one, I would angle the fence. I don't know if you've ever seen how you do an angle cut with a table saw. And if I were going to build another one, I would do it that way. But I just got a really big router bit, and that was and I passed through several times.
Okay.
But a router bit that big is makes you a little nervous.
Oh, yeah, it can jump easy.
And there was a lot of burns on it, so there was a lot of hand sanding involved because there wasn't a suitable sander for that. So that took the most amount of time. And it made me so mad is the first one. I don't know what happened, but I spent so much time on this thing, and then it split. The cedar just completely split, and so I had to start from scratch. Again.
Yeah, I saw it, and I'm like, wow, I can think of a couple possible ways to make that concave groove, but I'm just curious what you did. So big router bit, man. That's that had to be an expensive router bit.
Actually, it was pretty inexpensive. It's probably only good for a few passes.
Yeah,
so.
that's the downside, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the backyard bar. There's a million questions. I'm sure you hear them all. I really dig the floor lighting. How'd you do the floor lighting?
Well, the lighting was. I spent a lot of time and a lot of money on lights I didn't use, just because I knew that was going to be so important, and that's there's a certain look I was going for. So the top lighting is just those incandescent bulbs from Harbor Freight, you know, $25 or whatever. Yep. I like the look of an incandescent bulb like that versus LED. But I created a lip deliberately on the whole bar so that I could put that LED lighting underneath, and that's just the LED lighting that you get from Amazon.
Like a rope light?
No, it's a strip of LEDs, and it's got sticky tape on the backside.
Okay.
Although I've had to hot glue gun a lot of those pieces up, but it's not perfect. There's a lot of times I gotta reconnect these pieces because it's T-tapped in there.
Right.
But it gives it a great look.
It does. It looks really cool. It's a really nice finishing touch.
Thank you.
Yep. I really like that part. A lot of electricity got run to that thing. Did you hardwire electricity in?
Yeah.
We pull permits, or we ask for forgiveness later?
Next question. So I did run electrical, two 110 circuits out there. So I had two because I had 220 in the garage.
Okay.
So, but then later on, and a gas line, I got natural gas out there. But,
very cool.
Last year I got sponsored by this Dimplex Electric. They make all kinds of heaters, but these commercial 220 volt heaters. So I've got 3 of those out there. So I ran some more, number 8 wire out there. So there's a lot of electricity out there, but everything's done properly. I work with electricians, and I understand. I know NEC, the National Electrical Code, pretty good. So I did everything safe.
Yeah, I mean it's impressive thoroughly. I was just curious, like wow, like that's a lot to do something like that. Definitely impressive. It appears to stay warm in the winter.
Well, I'll tell you this because I got that the clear vinyl on there, so there's a greenhouse effect. So tomorrow it's going to be sunny out, so it's going to be 30, maybe 40 degrees warmer on the inside than it is on the outside. However, I don't heat it, all the time. So tonight when I get home, I'm going to turn on the gas heater. I'll put it on high, turn the fans on. People ask why do you get your ceiling fan on in the middle of winter? It's because you got to circulate that heat.
Yep.
I will also put on those radiant heaters because they'll crank it up pretty quick, and within 15 minutes it's nice and warm. Nice. And we've been out there with friends when it's been 0 outside, and we've had it 70 degrees on the inside.
The vinyl that you use for the windows on that, that's just like probably like a 40 mil or 60 mil thick
It's
vinyl?
30 gauge that the company, and I don't get anything. I get asked so much. It's marinevinylfabric.com. And they sell all kinds of variations of this vinyl, and it's relatively inexpensive. I got a few $100 and wrapped up into that, which is I think it's great. It's reusable. You roll it up.
Right.
And I use 30 gauge. It's never as good as the first time you put it on, but one of the tricks is stretching that out and stapling it, and then reinforcing it with the trim boards. And we've had 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and it holds up without issue.
And it doesn't get brittle when it's cold?
No, it doesn't.
That's what's impressive.
Right.
A few years ago, I built what they call a shooter tutor. If you are familiar with hockey at all, it's like
I've heard of that.
So they make these things out of like a fabric, like canvas or something, and it's just like it covers the front of the hockey net, and there's just like holes in the corners, and there's like a painting of a goalie on them sometimes, and you got to shoot and hit the corners and stuff. I wanted to make something a little bit more realistic, so I had like these giant cutouts of real life goalies made. A guy from the Kings, a guy from the Rangers, and they're life size cutouts, and they're on a giant sticker. And then I got some clear vinyl and laid them over the vinyl and attached them to the net, and then cut out. As a hockey player, that the corners aren't the only spots you can hit. You can hit them under the arm or right next to the neck. And you cut those holes out, but then you can't see the hole as a shooter. So you shoot where you think there might be a hole, and it becomes a lot more realistic and a lot more challenging, for my son who I was teaching how to play. and it worked awesome until you put them away for the winter, and then they get hard, and then you drop it, and it shatters, and then it's like, well, shit, that's gone.
Do you know what gauge you used on that?
I don't. It was the thickest stuff that I can find. I think I bought it at like Joann's or something.
I think I'd be more worried about hockey pucks hitting it.
In the summer, it held up just fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's just when it got cold, it got brittle. So that's why I was intrigued about yours. I'm like, is that the same stuff? Like, how does it hold up in the cold weather?
Yeah, and I wondered if it would get brittle as well, but I use 30 gauge, and it's still flexible when it's extremely cold.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I wouldn't subject it to, an adult ripping, 100-mile-an-hour shots at it. But, a 5 or 6 year old, it's definitely a good teaching tool.
I don't know if you've seen the video. I posted it just because it was too funny not to. But last year, the first time putting up, I had built the bar out, and I was putting the vinyl sheets up, and I kept taking them down, readjusting them, and I get down from my ladder, and I start walking, and bam, right into it. I was taking my readers off because I was putting, and I told my wife about it, and she's like, "Is it on the Ring camera?" And I thought, "Oh, you know what? Maybe it is." And sure enough,
a bit of a car guy, are you? The Hearst shifter on the chair?
No. I just thought it's actually Thirst.
Oh, even better.
If you look close, there's a T on there.
Even better.
But I know all the old school car stuff,
sure.
So I just thought that would be a suitable, lever for the
absolutely.
The chair.
It's Motor City. There's going to a lot of people are going to dig that. It's a really cool touch. Yep. It's got a hot chocolate dispenser and working gears. I mean, what is the ingenuity in building that thing with working gears and everything?
Well, a lot of that is just the wine chair modified.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I did a shoot with Cabo Wabo Tequila a few years ago. They came out and I converted it into a margarita chair.
Nice.
And so we made a commercial out of that. So I just kind of repurposed that chair. But that was there's a lot of tension. The people have wanted to buy that, and I'm like, no, you don't want this thing. It's dangerous. There's so much spring tension on that upper peninsula when you raise it up. But then I had to balance that out with like gears and pulleys and springs in the opposite direction underneath, and you don't get to see all that.
Right.
There's a lot of work in that, just so that she could manually move it forward and backwards
and have a counterweight for adjust so that she's not pulling that whole thing.
Exactly.
We had to do that with a drawbridge we built. We built a big giant castle, and we had a drawbridge, and the door weighed 200 pounds.
Counterweight.
It's like, it's all counterweights. Yeah, it worked really well.
And if you've seen the indentations on that wine chair, 1, 2, 3, 4, I actually calibrated it with a full bottle of wine so that, and I didn't show it in the video, but if you go to the first glass, it'll pour you one glass, and by the time you get to the fourth glass, it pours you the fourth glass.
So it has a different tilt level?
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's awesome. You said someone tried to buy that. Do you sell a lot of these things? You make replicas for other people, or is this all just for your toys and you make your money on?
Yeah, I don't sell anything. I tried, with the beer chair, we raffled off a couple for some nonprofits, and I sold a couple early on and took the money and got her a triathlon bike because we were doing the triathlons. But that's the only thing I've really sold. I do have a partner that I partnered with to do those. I don't know if you've seen the chore wheel. You spin this chore wheel in gravity, and it lands on a drink of beer. So
always,
he's making those, and we're selling some of those. But as far as these big projects, no, they're not practical. I can't build them to last.
Right, and you can't stand behind your work when it's like that.
No, and I am making one thing for one person at the hockey bottle opener. Did you see that one? It was a hockey player.
Yep.
Well, the NHL shared that a few years ago when I first made that. So all these pro athletes were asking me to make one for them, and at the time I didn't know who he was. He was the first to reach out, and it was David Perron. He's like,
"Oh, wow.
Hey, any chance you'd sell those?" I said, "You know what? If I ever do, you'll be the first to get one." Well, he followed me, I followed him, and when the Wings got him this past summer, I just messaged him. I said, we're really happy that you're coming here. And he's like, well, maybe I can get one of those bottle openers now. And I said, you know what? I'll make you one. And
nice.
I want a stick for my bar. So I'm in the middle of making that right now.
That's awesome.
I'm going to make him come to the bar to get it, though.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll get you a whole bunch of clicks and likes, right?
I don't know if he'll want that. Well, it's on a podcast now. So.
Right. Yeah, well, I don't know him personally, so I can't speak to what he would do. But
he seems like a good guy.
Yeah, that's cool, man. The massage chair.
Well, it once I started this, it became intentional. What's ridiculous, what's kind of cool, that's like the 4 key elements of the things that I make. is it's got to be ridiculous, it's got to be clever, and it's got to be funny, and it's got to be kind of cool. So to strike that balance where it's like, a lot of people don't get it. I get so much, hate, stuff on the things I make, or just, you're the stupidest guy in the world, how ridiculous. And I'm fine with that, but I just try to push the limits on things.
I've been married 14 and a half years. I could probably count 10 nights where I didn't have to scratch my wife's head on the way to sleep, So with the thing that you've got on that, you got the back scratch and the head scratch, like, I'm so glad you don't sell these things, because she'd be blowing up my phone. Right. You better tell him we want one of those.
Well, it's pretty noisy. I don't think she'd want it for that long.
Something to help out other woodworkers in the field, the push stick that you use for your table saw with the hand and the severed fingers, I thought was absolutely brilliant. It might be my favorite thing you have, just because I'm a woodworker and I've been doing it for 40 years myself. With the cutoff fingers, it's so cool, and it's really clever how you made it. Like, talked about that.
Well, I've always used just scraps of wood, just notch them for a push stick, usually 1/4 inch or something like that. And I always seen clever. A lot of people spend a lot of time making those push sticks, and sometimes I don't know why an idea pops in my head, but I was just going to put like a hand like that or something, and then I use Google Images to see, for a lot of the graphics, and just to see, and I modify them, cut the fingers off. Yep. But I started to draw it out, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of how you'd push your board through, like with your hand like that, and that little space, you get just the right amount to, for it to be useful, and I actually still use that. And it's one of the few things I do use.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I don't know about the handle. A lot of people say that handle shouldn't be enclosed. I don't know. Works just fine.
Whatever works for you. But the fact that you're showing, other people, especially young people who are getting into woodworking, like, there's no substitute for safety. You just have to do it. Even when you're at a pro level like yourself, you're still using the basic tools that your 6th grade shop teacher told you to use.
I'm more careful than I've ever been. In fact, I'm looking at saw stop table saws now, to protect my fingers. I use the cutoff finger in my logo now, and I'm like, I just jinxed myself. I'm gonna cut my finger off. And I thought it would be kind of funny to have some missing digits and that, and but it also draws attention to the importance of using the right tools, and safety tools. So I didn't get much negative comments. Not many negative comments on that. Even the woodworkers who had cut off fingers liked it. So.
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant. You ever get any kickbacks out of the table saw?
Oh yeah,
that's the worst.
It's been a while, but man,
it's
that
the worst,
saw
man.
fling. Oh man, I don't know what horsepower my motor is. It's a 220 old saw, but man, I've had some 12 by 12s get squirrely in there and fling that back like. Yeah. I missed it. How about you?
Yeah, I've never been hit by anything big. I've gotten some small pieces of like 1 by 2 or something like that that'll come across the arm and cut you. Or I had a piece of plexiglass like zing past my head and shatter on the wall behind me. It's like a bullet. Yeah. So I've had some close calls, but never any like big ones. I remember in maybe 7th grade, my shop teacher, he was out for like 2 months because he had a kickback on a 2 by 12 and put it right in his chest, and he was in the hospital for like a week or something. Like, stopped his heart, and it was brutal. We almost lost him.
Especially you catch the corner of that board or something.
Yeah, hit you square in the chest. Stop your heart for a minute is dangerous. So always emphasize safety, especially for the young kids watching that are getting into woodworking, and there's not enough of them, so we need more of that. But safety is super important.
Did that shop teacher have all those fingers?
From what I remember, yeah.
We had a shop teacher that didn't have. It is funny that brought up so many stories of people, their shop teachers missing fingers. It's pretty commonplace.
So the dog bed. Okay, so it took me a while to get through your page to see this dog bed. Okay.
Oh, the canopy bed?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So I saw all these other things that you built before I saw that, and I got this image in my head. I'm like, this guy is like either a professional bachelor, or you are the superhero for every frat guy who is either still in college or got out of college, and that was like his peak of life is his frat, and that's just what he lives now. It's like his religion is Sunday football and drinking beer, and then you got all this stuff that you make, and these guys just must worship you, like, oh, this is a guy who builds everything in the world I ever want to be, and then I see you build a dog bed, and then here comes the squirrel bar and the resort and all this other stuff. I'm like, wow, he's not selfish. This actually, you're kind of diverse. It's not just beer drinking, fun tools.
And that's intentional too. I mean, I make a lot of things alcohol related, but I deliberately don't promote too much drinking, overindulgence or drinking and driving. I don't know if you've seen the baby carriage I made.
I was gonna get there. That's one of my favorite things you got.
That came the closest. It even occurred to me. We weren't even drinking beer making the video, but I had so many hate comments like, "You're promoting drinking and driving," and there was a lot of beer in the cooler, but it was just for effect, But I intentionally. I don't promote, drinking too much or drinking and driving, and I also, I don't want to be just all alcohol related.
Sure.
And so I try to. Just whatever idea pops into my head, I just try to, what can I make that's ridiculous? It's kind of funny or kind of cool. And so,
the carriage is great.
That's
awesome.
one of my favorites.
Yeah. So the wine dispenser, again, touching on, it started off seeming like it's like, oh, beer and football and, the typical cliche, and it's like, all right, then you got the school bar and the, all the dog bed and everything. And then it's like, oh, he's got a wine dispenser for the ladies. That's awesome, man. That's like a really cool touch, how you did that. And then how it's got the, like you were explaining how the bottle tilt and everything. Yeah. That's super cool. You have a daughter in a band, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The foot pedal powered beer drinking thing. All right. I'm watching this, and then it hits me that you've got a daughter in a band. And I'm like, I grew up in the music industry and in a lot around rock bands and stuff. And I just like, what would it take for you to have two of those and have a couple of drummers stand there and do the double kick as fast as they can?
My son's the drummer in that same
band.
band.
Get out of town, really? Yeah. That's awesome.
And back when he was 13, man, that double bass was...
Right, yeah. Like I would pay to see someone, like, you could make a challenge out of that, like, get a good double kick and have somebody have to drink it.
Oh, there'd be beer everywhere.
That would be awesome. That'd be great.
Did you see the Halloween zip line?
Yes, I did. That was super cool too. You got a couple of beers for mom and dad and candy for the kids. Is it supposed to drop it automatically, or was that an accident?
That was like a video I posted later on. That was a B video. The official video I put out in 2020, but that's the most exposure I've gotten. They were putting it on the Today Show front page of the Wall Street Journal. My name was on it.
Yeah, that's
it was on Today Show, all kinds of interviews. Yeah, it was nuts because it was COVID. And it was a solution, and the parents were getting beer, and it was just that's the furthest my inventions have gone. Was with that zip line.
That's crazy. The lawnmower is cool too. The little lawnmower caddy that you got there. I think you need to borrow my son's engine off his junior dragster because it makes like 60 horsepower or something. Put that on there, and then you can tow the guy. Put like a little rolling car behind it.
There's no way I'd try to use that thing, and that was part of the joke. Chips and salsa. You hit one bump, and that's all.
I mean, if you're sitting there, it's
thinking
fine.
about making one for the snowblower, but
yeah.
We'll see.
I did see one video where you're doing some stuff with live edge, but I didn't really see a lot of projects with slab wood and live edge. I built a live edge bar at my house, and all the shelving is all live edge, and it's a black walnut slab for the bar top. I absolutely love live edge. I think it's beautiful. Are you got plans in the future to do some stuff with that?
No, those were just the only video I ever posted that I can recall is I got a couple cookies from a friend who has a tree cutting service. Mm-hmm. I just let him dry for 4 years now. I was leveling them out. I made a planer sled, and that's about as far as it got.
Okay.
Of course, it's something that is supposed to go in the house, so that always takes a backseat to my ideas. So.
Yeah, the stuff is cool, but it's like really tough to work with. Like if you're using a planer, because you knock that live edge off, and then it's useless. It's like, well, hell, now it's just expensive lumber. Right. Like when we did mine, I bought a raw piece because it's a lot cheaper that way, than one that's finished. And I literally just took an electric sander and just sanded it down instead of using a planer, just because you don't want to knock that edge off.
Yeah, how big of a piece was it?
9 by 2, 9 foot by 2 foot.
That's a lot of sanding. With
a curve in the center too. It's like a really nice piece of wood. It's really cool. Yeah, a lot of sanding from rough cut too. I mean, their saw blades are like 40 inches or something in diameter, big giant blades. So it was a super rough cut piece of wood. It took forever to sand it.
Did you epoxy it?
Just a bunch of just urethane. I didn't do any pour on epoxy because, like, the fact that I sanded it, it's not perfectly flat, but it adds a lot of charm to the bar. Like, my bar's got a real, like, old-timey look. So, like, it's not flat. It's kind of got some wave to it, which it gives it a lot of charm. And it's fun when your friends get drunk because their drink is kind of tilted. So it becomes a party favorite in itself. So I didn't want to overdo it. I wanted to kind of keep it, with its natural look. So just a little clear coat, really, like 5 or 6 coats of clear. Nothing
I've never used epoxy. I was just curious if you ever.
Yeah, I've used it on other stuff, just not that. Like I made in my kitchen, I made like an island. Well, it's more of a peninsula because it's attached to the wall, and I just put a bunch of planks of cedar together and then cut it, to fit on top of a structure, and then I epoxied that. It came out awesome. Really nice. If you ever do work with it, I've learned that the best trick to doing it, and it took me years of failing projects, is heat. Just put a torch to it.
I've seen the videos get the bubbles out.
Yeah, they come right out. It's amazing. I'm like, son of a bitch, why did I know that 10 years ago? I made so much stuff with epoxy that I ruined. I had to sand it down and redo it.
It's not cheap. That stuff's expensive.
It's crazy expensive. I did a floor once. That sucked.
A floor?
Yeah, a glitter entryway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did. You ever see that? Like, you can buy it on a roll. It's not like rhinestones. It's just inverted cut plastic, and it's angle cut, so it looks like a sheet of rhinestones. And you look at it, it's like, oh, it's just reflective plastic. So we laid this sheet stuff over the floor, and it literally looked like diamonds on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And I just poured a bunch of epoxy over it. So it looked pretty cool when it was done. I think the doorbell would probably be my wife's favorite thing that you have. I saw that, and I instantly sent it to her. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, you're going to love this, because she hates everybody, she hates people. And I was like, that is priceless.
Did you get the Mr. Rogers audio on?
I did.
Was it that one?
I did. So for those of you who haven't seen it, he modified his doorbell, so when you push the button, it just screams out on the screen, go away. It's absolutely priceless. The stuff that you do is absolutely incredible. A little bit more on your past. You used to own Tormina's Pizza. Is that true?
Yeah, well, a franchise in Ypsilanti.
Really?
When we were very young. Did I tell you that?
No, you did not.
Yeah, I was working delivering pizzas for Lou Tormina in Westland, and I had known him for several years, and my wife and I had just recently got married. I was working 2 jobs, and his in-laws had started a franchise in Ypsilanti, and it didn't work out for them. They didn't care for the hours or whatever. It was Eastern's campus. Well, so we took over on that, and we were there for a couple of years, and it was just horrible.
Yeah, I love Tormina's Pizza.
Well,
those big
not
24s are so awesome.
It's such a competitive market in a college town, and if you're selling a quality pizza, you're not going to do so good. They want the cheap pizzas in college town.
Oh, yeah, they can't afford a good pizza.
Well, they were good times, good memories, a lot of lessons learned. We
Yeah.
still stay in touch with a lot of them.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's been great to have you here. I appreciate you coming by.
You inviting me.
Looking forward to seeing more stuff from you in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.